While the world is still grappling with the highly infectious Omicron strain of COVID-19, scientists in France have identified a potentially worrying new variant which has 46 mutations, named EHU. The new variant is said to have so far infected 12 living people living in southeastern France, with the first case linked to a person with a travel history to Cameroon, Central Africa. Experts were quick to announce that just because a new variant has been discovered does not really mean it will prove as infectious as other strains, including Omicron. Now, in the analysis, the researchers found 46 mutations which has not been spotted in other countries nor label a variant under investigation by the World Health Organization, that's WHO. Ironically, the first person who was identified with the EU variant was fully vaccinated and it tested positive for COVID-19 after returning to France from a 3-day trip to Cameroon. Now, with these new variants and the fact that a new academic year will soon begin with schools resuming in most parts of Nigeria, what are the best ways to contain the spread of a disease? What makes the EHU variant different from others? What measures should Nigerian authorities take to protect the country effectively in the light of vaccine phobia and low vaccination rates? And what can the world do to stop other variants from emerging? Well, this is Nigeria Today, and these are the issues that we'll be looking at. And we have two gentlemen who are more than equal to the task on the show. You'll get to meet them in just a moment. I am Musbal and Wahab. Welcome to Nigeria Today on NTA News 24. Right, with me in the studio to discuss EHU variant of COVID-19 is a public health specialist, Dr. Isaac Akuma Egboja. Welcome to Nigeria Today. He's a friend of the house. Good to see you again.
Thank you. Good evening.
Well, we also have on that left side of your screen is Associate Professor Immunovirologist, University of Abuja, Dr. Yunusa Thairu. Good to have you as well.
Good evening, Nigerians.
All right, I'm going to start with you, Dr. Thairu. Just about when we're still learning about Omicron, here we are hearing again about EHU emanating from France, according to researchers. Now, what is it that we must learn about this new variant?
Thank you very much for the question. I think we need to actually face the fact and actually let us to know that the end, we've not really gotten to the end of all this COVID-19 saga, though it is COVID-19, but we have up to now 2 years more on the line. We still have more new variants coming up, and this is not the last. New variants is going to come. What we always talk about is that whenever you have viruses, there is that possibility and there is that ability of viruses to actually mutate and change some of the outer part of it, or some of those variants. So these are things that we call variant, and this is something that we should brace ourselves up to. We've just trying to prevent Omicron. We come in now, we are now talking about the new variant. There are other new variants we're going to come. So it's always good for all of us to actually come together, be in the same box, and ask ourselves, what can we actually effectively do to actually prevent these new variants that are actually coming that have not been named. But good enough for us to know that either the Omicron or the new one, or even the Delta, or even the Alpha, they are all progeny of what we call COVID-19, which is SARS-CoV-2. And this simply tells us that a very good approach can be got, and this approach can actually be what we call a community-based approach. It can also be a what we call a country-wide approach, and then we can also now have what we call a world approach. So that is the good news. The good news in there is that this virus is emanated from what we call the real project, the real virus itself, and it now tells us that what variant comes from it, prevention will be the best answer, because we cannot go on looking for newer drugs, newer vaccines, and all those things. Of course,
Dr.
vaccination
Thairo,
is also
we'll
part
talk about other measures to take to prevent them. But for now, let's establish this. You have just mentioned it. And I'm going to ask Dr. Egbuja this. We have Omicron, Delta, and now HEW, all linked, all under COVID-19. What makes HEW different from other variants like Delta and Omicron that we've been hearing about?
Well, what makes it different is that the structure is different from the previous ones, and that's why it is called a different variant. When we say that a virus mutates, it means that every time it divides, the offspring is different from the parent.
You're right.
For example, when you look at this, my 5 fingers here,
Yeah.
this is different from the rest of the fingers. You notice that this finger here has 2 joints.
You're right.
And these other 4 have 3 joints each. That means that this finger is different from these 4. And when you look at these 4, each of them is still different from the other, but they are all fingers.
Right.
And therefore, what we understand by variant is that they are all COVID-19 virus, they are coronavirus, but they have different shapes and different structures. We'll go into that in a little while.
All right. All right, thank you very much. But let me still stay with you, Dr. Egbuja. As an expert in this field, how worried are you that new variants keep emerging, keep evolving? What exactly can be done? Is there anything to do to stop new variants from coming up?
Well, I'm going to answer your question in 2 ways.
All right.
First, I am not worried.
Okay.
I'm not worried because we've been able to study the first 2 or 3 variants to the extent that vaccines have been developed and we are now vaccinating people. And we now know too how to prevent the spread of coronavirus by wearing your face mask, keeping a distance from your next neighbor, reporting to any health facility when you have any symptoms of the disease, coughing to your elbow when you cough, if you cough, and staying healthy. Now, the last and the most important step that we have taken is the vaccination.
Okay.
As long as we are vaccinating, I'm not worried. That's the first part of your question. The next part of your question is, I am worried. Worried because people are not responding the way they are supposed to respond. People are not going to the vaccination centers to be vaccinated the way they are supposed to. And people are not adhering to the protocols that are laid down, to the guidelines that would help us to get rid of this virus, to prevent us from being infected. If we do what we are supposed to be doing, wearing our face masks, keeping a physical distance from our neighbors, and doing what we should do by vaccinating now especially, we will be able to get rid of this virus at some point. And that is the good news that we would have. But if we don't do that, and we continue to doubt, then I'm worried that we are going to have this virus around us, and it will be spreading. And not just that. As long as the virus is around, the possibility of it mutating, meaning when it multiplicates, the possibility that the offspring is different from the mother or from the parent is there. And therefore, the possibility that we will be infected and the infection will continue, the pandemic will continue, is also there. That's my worry.
All right, Dr. Thairo, now, when this came up a few days ago, people were discussing it and asking, HEW again, what's the meaning of HEW? How did it come? So we may want to know, how are these different variants of COVID-19 actually getting their names? Is it like the tsunami and other disasters that we have like that? And can an infected person actually transmit this to other people or cause other diseases and death to those who are actually vaccinated?
Yeah, you actually asked some questions if we are actually worried about this. But it's good for me to answer your question from the basis to say that how does this name comes about. Now, you see, the International Society on Taxonomy of Naming of Viruses is an international committee. They are virologists who come together and then look at it and look at what are those indicators of the what we call the green and the blue points that actually brought up the name. It's actually scientific, and we tend to look at it, not that we just come and then they just give it a beautiful name and somebody said, how did they come about the Omicron? But this
honestly, if you ask me, this one is not beautiful.
So coming up with it has to do with one location and also with some of the things that goes within the international taxonomy in terms of a way to actually identify the virus. Sometimes when you look at every point of the virus, several points of the virus called the epitomes of the virus actually have what we call specific names. And those names actually goes along with whatever mutation that takes place in those sites. Now, to answer your second question in a precise way, is that anybody that actually gets this virus has the ability to transmit. I mean, that is the truth. If a person that is vaccinated, for instance, the ability to transmit this virus is also there. But we know that the virus that is being transmitted is weakened. This is the reason whereby vaccination taking place concomitantly with with transmission of infection is one of those big problems that we need to grapple with as scientists. Really, sometimes when you find an infectious disease is coming in, it takes time for vaccination to start. It takes time for vaccine to be, to be produced against such infectious diseases. But this time around, we now have a virus that there is vaccination taking place, and then there is community spread, there is transmission taking place, which simply means that there is breakthrough infection. It now tells us that some people that are vaccinated can easily get infected and can also transmit. But what we always say is that when you have a gathering, for instance, of about 10 people in a gathering, and you find 2 of them have what we call comorbidities, for instance, maybe they are diabetic, and you have another one that's hypertensive, and the other ones are younger age without any problem. Now, one person comes in with the virus and then transmits. You know what that effect is going to be on those people that are diabetic. They are going to come down with the disease. They will come down with a severest form of clinical signs and symptoms. But this now tells us whereby the other ones may not actually come down with a severe form. But in terms of what we call international health system, everybody needs to be protected, no matter what the comorbidities you may harbor. So the dangerous thing that is going on with this virus, with the mutation, is the ability for it to be transmitted to people that you don't even know their medical conditions, which is not written on the forehead. So just like what my senior colleague have said, it's always good for us to take what we call a preventive approach. And preventive approach using our face masks, maintaining social distancing, and also trying to wash our hands regularly. And with what he has said, vaccination, a simple tool of vaccination. And I think we need to talk more about appealing to people about vaccination, answering some questions that are being brought up with vaccination. Let me just put this as a record. This is the first time a pandemic is coming in with the era of social media. Of course, we know what that effect is going to be on the understanding and counter-understanding and rumors and things that goes on with the disease. So this is a very, very big problems for us to
very
actually
big one
solve.
indeed, Dr. Thairo.
We should solve it.
Trust me, we're going to talk more about this vaccination, the necessity for it, and the efficacy. Well, let's take a quick break and go away. We have more to talk about on EHU.
This is NTA News 24 broadcasting from Abuja. You can watch us anywhere, anytime on the following platforms. For more information, log on to our website www.nta.ng or join us on our social media handles, Facebook at NTA News 24.
For comments, suggestions and inquiries, send an email to news24@nta.gov.ng or call us on the following numbers.
NTA News 24,
news and more news.
Right, not news this time around. We're taking news from Angus, and the news is Ihu. Dr. Thayo earlier talked about the necessity for vaccination. Of course, scientists went into action after COVID-19 came up, and after a month, we're able to get various types of vaccines. Dr. Ebuja, what I'm going to ask you now is, apart from these non-pharmaceutical measures that we are advised to take, now vaccination is also being recommended. But remember too that the first patients diagnosed with this new variant, Ihu, in France was fully vaccinated, and yet he came up with this.
Yeah.
Does it mean that, does it question the efficacy of the vaccines we have, or are they not potent enough?
Not at all. It doesn't question the efficacy of the vaccines. It doesn't question the effectiveness of the vaccines. What it means is that, first of all, let me explain something.
All right.
When you develop a vaccine against a particular organism, a virus in this case, coronavirus in this case, what you do is you look at the structure, the molecular structure of the virus, and therefore you make a vaccine that will, when you attenuate, when you destroy, when you weaken, when you destroy or alter the physical structure of this virus, and it comes in contact with the body, or you put it into the body, the antibodies that will the body will produce will now enable the body to fight against the virus itself. In other words, you produce a vaccine that has what looks like a masquerade that will frighten the antibodies.
Right.
The antibodies will now come and say, "Ah, there's an enemy," and then they will start attacking it. In other words, the what they are attacking, which is the vaccine that they come to attack, and or what is eliciting them to come for a fight, is the vaccine. But the vaccine itself is no more harmful. It is the organism that is coming, that the antibodies are looking at and recognizing that this is not our friend, that are harmful. And therefore, what we should be doing is to continue to vaccinate so that we will be immune. Immunity is the issue. Immunity is the key approach here. When you are immune, it means that when you are infected with the virus, be it this variant or another variant, you will no more be sick from the infection.
Right.
That's what it means. And let me be more specific. Coming back to your question, we may even have more variants in the future. That does not mean that the vaccines are not effective. We will continue to be vaccinated. Don't forget what I said before, when I want to repeat it so that everybody gets it very clear. These are my 5 fingers. Whether this is short and has only 2 joints, and this is also short, and this is the tallest, and has 3 joints, it doesn't make a difference. All of them are fingers. If you tell somebody, go and cut 1 or 2 fingers out of this hand, that person can cut any of the fingers, because they are all fingers. Take this back to the vaccine in relationship with the virus. When once we have the structure that we are fighting against. And that basic structure is there. The variant of it may not necessarily be more powerful that it will not respond to the vaccine. In other words, the vaccine will still be able to protect us against whatever new variant is coming. It may not do so 100%, but the fact that you are already vaccinated means that you already have the basis, the immunity, the ability to fight whatever variant is coming. But if you don't, it means that you have left yourself open, and therefore, whether it is the old variant or it is the new variant, when it comes, it will attack you and it can kill you.
All right, let's hope it won't kill anyone here. Now, Dr. Thairo, we are in a new academic year, and most schools are just set soon to resume. How worried are you on the attitude of Nigerians, particularly towards the safety protocols, some of which you have listed earlier?
Well, I can answer the question on a two-sword front. The first one is that I'm actually particularly worried for the fact that the EOD and the Omicron is highly transmissible. And it means that for it to be highly transmissible, it can actually go wild and viral to affect a large number of people gathering and the rest. Second, for the main fact that it can also affect younger age group, and that tells us that school coming up with children with assembly ground and all those things, effectivity may be high. Number three, where you have a large population of children actually in schools whereby you have dust area, and then you have, this is a period also, number four, this is a period where we are talking about Harmattan, where we are talking about external environmental factor, because we always talk about some effect. This is some greenhouse effect. This is what we call climate change, with a lot of dust, hazy dust, coming into the environment, sustaining this virus a much longer period in the air, increasing its transmissibility, actually is something that makes us to be worried.
Right,
On the other hand,
it's something to worry about, like you have established. Now, Dr. Egboja, what measures should the Nigerian authorities be doing now to be proactive and protect the country effectively in the light of vaccine phobia and low vaccination rates?
I think we just have to scale up our mobilization, our sensitization, our health education, and we should please take responsibility for our health. Individual responsibility, collective responsibility. If you are head of the family, make sure that you check everybody, make sure that everybody is vaccinated in your family. If I get vaccinated and you don't, and you are my wife, and we are sleeping in the same room, on the same bed, the possibility that I can come back from somewhere, bring the virus, even though I am protected because I'm vaccinated, but I'm a carrier. I have it in me. I can throw it at you, my wife, who is sleeping on the same bed with me, and you who has not been vaccinated will get it. The same with the children, the same with visitors. Therefore, the message is, please take the non-pharmaceutical measures and then be vaccinated.
All right, thank you very much, Dr. Egboja. I wish we have more time to talk about this, because a lot needs to be done to curtail or protect individuals from contracting this, and we hope it will not find its way into Nigeria. And that's it's on this episode of Nigeria Today. Our public health specialist, Dr. Isaac Akuma Egboja. We thank you very much, and an associate professor, immunovirologist, University of Abuja, Dr. Unisa Thairo. We always appreciate you for being part of this program.
Thank you.
thank you.
All right, we'll see you tomorrow with another fresh package of Nigeria Today on NTA News 24. Don't forget, you can always watch these and other episodes of the program on YouTube. www.ntnews24.com, and you get latest editions of Nigeria Today on that. Thanks a lot for your time.
It's time for